NFL draft did not go as expected, but at the same time, I don't know what we were expecting.
I don't know what I was expecting, but it was not that.
I mean,
I didn't even know where to start with it.
you can start at number one, right? That dude, up until kind of the combine, he wasn't projected as the number one pick.
I think before the combine, it was like 30-1 odds or something.
Listed on a lot of boards at like somewhere in the 20s. His numbers are ridiculous at the combine. As the draft process is going on, the Jaguars are falling more and more in love with them, and here we are, number one pick. They don't say Aiden Hutchinson.
Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Well, right. And then see, but like for me, this is like the Jaguars thing to do, right?
I mean, last year the pick kind of picked for him, right? Like
Didn't count.
You were
Doesn't
not
count.
gonna
Didn't count.
not pick Trevor Lawrence. I wasn't expecting to hear Trayvon Walker's. I'm sure our guy Tyler wasn't expecting that either.
Yeah, well,
Did
it was
you
it was
hear from
kind
him on
of.
that?
Oh, we didn't hear about that, but
Okay.
I mean, I knew it would be him
Okay.
based on the last like day or two. It was pretty obvious
Right.
that's what they were gonna pick.
Right.
I didn't realize that a week ago or 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago. But and we talked about a pick that could get you fired. This is the epitome of a pick that's gonna get somebody fired or somebody a huge "I told you so." I
What
hope
do
it
you
works out for him because obviously you're not gonna root against the guy,
sure.
you know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It wouldn't have been my pick,
Right.
per se, but we'll see. We'll see.
I mean, the Jaguars have a lot of needs. It's like that Spice Adam video. It's like wide receiver, running back, fullback, offensive coach.
The fact,
defensive coach.
but it's like you said, they have a lot of needs, so they
Yeah.
can't really afford to miss.
Exactly.
You
I
know,
mean, I mean,
I think you go Aiden Hutchinson, the
you go
first pick.
safe.
That's
You go
safe,
safe.
right? And it's like you fill a need, and then you go from there. Like he wasn't even the best defensive player on his own team in college. Like N'Kobe Dean is alive, right?
he wasn't even
exists.
he wasn't even the third best. I mean, the second best because
N'Kobe Dean, Jordan Davis.
Jordan Davis.
Jordan Davis.
He was the third best defensive player on that team.
Like we're just throwing out players, and we're deciding if the number one pick is better than them.
It's not a good look. You got to think about it.
But all these guys. I mean, I'm like, like I said, I saw him somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah,
is where I thought he'd go, and the combine doesn't change a ton for me, because what do you do in the past? Depending on need, a lot of people had him in somewhere in the mid to late 20s in the drafts. And this is where those guys went. So it's like, the Jacksonville thing to do.
I just think, I think it's nuts. You go from 30-1 odds before the combine, and then now you're the number one pick. That's just a huge jump. I was looking at some of his stats, and his 3 years in college, he only had 9.5 sacks, and he's an edge, so that's a little alarming to me. Only 13 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble. So sometimes college stats I take with a grain of salt because it could be doubled, things like that. So I take it with a grain of salt. But 9.5 sacks in 3 years is not a lot for me. So yeah, the number one pick I thought was nuts. Were there any other big surprises in the first round in terms of picks that kind of head scratches?
For me, I had a big head scratcher at number 8 with the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay.
I was actually
Harris and I were talking about that earlier too.
Really?
I was actually about to say that, like, after that, after the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those all kind of picked themselves. Aiden Hutchinson's there.
I didn't know Derek Stingley was going to go third.
Like Tyler said,
he's the most interesting player.
Right.
But yeah, I did not think he was going to go third. But I mean, I like him. I'm a fan of Derek Stingley. I hope it works out for the Texans. Are another team where they need a lot of things.
Yeah. So
I mean, if you can lock up one side of the field, that's helpful.
Yeah, I think after 1, the next 7 are kind of like, I think they're fine. There's nothing that jumps off the page. And then
I like Sauce to the Jets. I liked that a lot.
I like it. I like it.
I think the Jets did
I
really
like it a
well
lot
today.
because he's going to be a giant.
I like the Jets a lot. I think the Jets are the winners.
Jets did awesome today, in my opinion. But yeah, sorry. Getting back to the original question. We'll give to winners in a second. But any other head scratchers? You said 8.
8.
Drake
Yeah.
London to the Falcons. Eris and I were talking about it a little bit. Why was that a head scratcher for you, Adam?
It's because I don't think he fits that offense. See, I don't think he's bad, but I see him more like he got compared a lot to Mike Evans. You have to be really accurate in order to get the best out of him.
Yep.
And that's not Marcus Mariota, you know.
Yep.
It might be CJ Stroud or Bryce Young next year, but if it's CJ Stroud, that's even more reason to draft Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave because
Got the
he
connection
played with
already.
them. So
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to me for that offense. But obviously they might have a different. I don't know their offensive game plan, but on paper, I don't see it.
I was telling Eris that I didn't really think it addressed the need because you already kind of have like a big body like Kyle Pitts already. So in
Mhm.
terms of speed on the outside, Drake London's not slow by any means for
No.
how big he is. He moves well. He was on the basketball team too for a little bit at USC. So like he was a 6'5" guard. Like he's a big guard, right? So and he moved well. In terms of their offensive game plan, like you were saying, I don't know that it really addresses a need. I think you're spot on with players like that. You really need your quarterback to be accurate, and I don't know if that's ever been synonymous with Marcus Mariota. You know what I mean? I think that they should have went with either Wilson, Chris Olave for reasons that you were saying, but maybe Drake London is a pick for the future if they get a quarterback next year. So it's kind of like you stash him. It's like a pick for your future quarterback. And I was thinking like there's a couple other picks that were kind of like picks for your future quarterback. Like the Seahawks, I thought could go get a quarterback, but they went left tackle.
Or
Maybe next year they're gonna go get a quarterback. So that you ride with Drew Lock for a year and then you try and go get your guy next year.
I think for me, 24. Obviously, the Dallas Cowboys, I think, addressed a need, but they addressed a need with the wrong guy. I didn't understand why him. To be honest, I didn't, anticipate that being our guy. I think that's why, it caught me off guard. Cowboys normally draft really well, but we let go of Lyle Collins, I think maybe because he was kind of expensive and injury prone.
Yeah.
We let go of Connor Williams because he was a penalty machine, and then we drafted a penalty machine as a replacement. 24 was probably a head scratcher that wasn't number 8. Between 8 and 24, a lot of it's just kind of safe. It was a really, really safe draft, really, really pretty decently safe picks. And then you get to 24, and it's kind of like, that's your guy. I liked the center from Iowa a lot better. I think
I did too.
he's
Lindenbaum.
yeah, Lindenbaum. I think he'd be a lot better for what we need, right? Or for what the Cowboys need right now. And it's just, I don't know. It was just kind of a head scratcher for me. That one, and then of course the Patriots pick. Kind of,
Cole Strange. That was nuts.
I like Cole Strange actually.
Yeah, which is
I like
fine.
Cole Strange at 54.
You could have
right?
got him.
Yeah, 54. I like him later.
They had like I was telling Eris because we were watching it together on Xbox, and there was I forget what the stat was, but it said what they named the stat, but it was like the predictor of if you could get that pick later with
Mhm.
your pick that you have later. So it was like a 93% chance that he would still be there at 54.
He
So it's like
definitely would,
a
I
little
think.
bit of a reach. And I don't know if you saw the Rams were doing like a post draft press conference or something like that, like after their first pick. And Sean McVay and I forget what their GM's name is. They saw that pick go through live and they're like, oh shit, Strange just went 29th. And Sean McVay was like, well shit, like we were watching film hoping we can get him at 109.
That's wild.
29. The Patriots historically, I don't think draft very well outside of
No.
Tom Brady, but
Yeah.
they didn't think they almost cut Tom Brady. So
Yeah.
I don't want to hear it. That was a head scratcher for me.
I have one head scratcher. I think right now they have an F. I want to know what the Washington Commanders saw in Jahan Dotson that they didn't see in AJ Brown. They could have traded that 16 pick for AJ Brown.
100%.
I think
if they went and drafted a wide receiver. After didn't they trade back too?
They did.
I think it was the money because AJ Brown is due $25 million right now.
What
good.
money is Washington trying to save?
Save for.
I don't know what they're trying to save for. For me, it just like they're right now they're not paying Jahan Dotson $25 million, and they will be paying AJ Brown that. Jahan Dotson is incredibly, insanely talented, and I think he has a very, very good chance of being good. Now, with that being said, I'm always a fan of let them picks go. We don't need them. You know what I mean? Like go get a dude that's a dude, and you know,
proven.
and you know he can play.
Right.
That's me personally. Maybe they don't want to fork over $25 million AJ Brown. That's my
That
only
is
guess.
a lot of money for a wide receiver.
And
100 million.
Yeah, and Jahan Dotson could very well be a baller. I think he's good. I think he's really good.
He is nice. Sticking to wide receivers, I was a little confused. I understand he's insanely talented, but Jamison Williams to the Lions, I thought was a little bit of a head scratcher because he's not going to be healthy to play right away, and there's no guarantee. You know, ACLs, some come back and they work fine and they're still great, but then you also have, you know, Odell Beckham has torn ACL multiple times now, and
They
you know
gotta
what it
be.
means. You just never
Yeah.
know.
I was confused by that too. I was confused. First of all, the Lions, I think they fleeced the Vikings in that trade. Second of all, they traded up. I thought they would trade up to get a quarterback,
Right.
and they drafted Jameson Williams.
Yep.
I was a bit confused by that too.
I think they're packing it in. I think they know they're going to be bad, and Jamison Williams is probably going to be good
Next year.
Probably not going to play next year, or if he does, he's not going to be. You know, I
So-
don't think they're going to play him a lot next year if he plays at all, and then pack it in and put your eggs in the CJ Stroud bag, especially if you don't like a guy this year. If you don't like, if you don't like Sam Howell,
so you think this is another stash pick? For next year?
I definitely think so. You know, you maximize your first round draft picks by stashing your draft pick, your injury pick, or whatever until his rookie year next year, and let him come in and grow with your next.
Yeah, that's shocking because over the last week, everybody thought that Sam Howell was going to be a Lion. That's what I saw a lot from a lot of mocks that they were just in love with him.
And then when I saw the trade up, I was like, "Are people worried that Sam
he still
Howell's
could
gonna
be
go before?"
True, he still could be there.
Yeah,
the way it's looking, he might be.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of quarterbacks left.
Yeah, I mean, you know, all of them. Besides, I also want the record to show that I did ask Tyler if Kenny Pickett would be in play for the Steelers at 20, and he was like, "It could be, but they love Sam Howell." I don't know where all this Sam Howell buzz is coming from because we know Sam Howell, right? Like we know, like we've seen him. We know what Sam Howell is, and I'm taking FSU bias aside. I just don't see Sam Howell just lighting it up in the NFL. I don't see it. He's very undersized. His arm he's got a very quick release. And Tyler was spot on in saying that he does make decisions quickly, but I mean, he doesn't have a big arm. So I think he has to go to a very good warm weather dome situation to be successful. So I personally didn't think Pittsburgh fit Sam Howell at all, but he knows more. Tyler knows way more than me. You know what I'm saying? So
Neither does Detroit.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, you play half your games inside, but then you play Green Bay outdoors. You play Minnesota outdoors. You play Chicago outdoors.
Minnesota plays in a dome.
Oh, they do. They do. Sorry. So you play Minnesota, but you play Green Bay outside and you play Chicago outside.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, which isn't like the worst schedule, I guess. You get two minimum shitty weather games against probably, you know, two of the better defenses in the league or in your division, and the Bears and the Packers. Actually, I don't know with the Bears anymore, but transitioning to quarterback, I understand that the QB class was, you know, kind of weaker than most, but one QB taken in a first round, especially at pick 20, I don't know if
all these
I've
teams
been alive.
needing QBs.
Say that again.
I say with all these teams needing QBs too.
Right. So does that say more about their faith in these QBs and the draft and the QB pool for this draft being a lot worse than what we initially thought, or are the teams kind of playing chicken with each other to see who is going to start picking these QBs?
I don't think there's a franchise-changing player at quarterback in this draft, and that's not to say that there won't be, right? There's not to say that Kenny Pickett won't be really, really good. Malik Willis won't be really, really good. Right now, today, do I think those are franchise-changing quarterbacks? I don't. I did think that about Trevor Lawrence. Maybe not so much about Zach Wilson, but
Zach Wilson would have been first in this draft too.
I mean, he would have been first, and it wouldn't have been a discussion, right?
Yeah,
it wouldn't even like Aiden Hutchinson wouldn't even been talked about. It would have been Zach Wilson, right? Do I think those are franchise changing guys? Maybe not Zach Wilson, but for sure, I don't think that about Sam Howell. I don't think that about pretty much any of the guys that aren't not Kenny Pickett, that aren't Malik Willis. And even Malik Willis, I'm like,
I heard an alarming analysis about Malik Willis that I didn't really pay attention to until I heard it today. It was that he only played 2 real Division I opponents, and he didn't throw a touchdown in either of those games. So it's kind of a little alarming.
That was he played in a really in a really not great football conference.
I think that more comes down to I didn't watch those games obviously, so I don't know if he played bad, but if your O line's not blocking, your receivers can't get no sep. It's kind of hard to throw touchdown passes. Might not be indicative of his skill, just his teammates around him just weren't good enough. I don't know. I didn't watch that. I didn't even know that stat existed, actually.
Me neither, until I heard it today. Not one. You can't manufacture one.
That's true. You can get one.
Like one. There's a lot of time in a football game to get one. I thought maybe Malik Willis would come off the board to the Panthers, but they took Kwanu.
You had to take him though. I mean, he's a franchise.
Yeah. So I think they roll with Sam Darnold for another year, and then try and get their guy next year. By the way, I do think that the Jets again did really well. I think Garrett Wilson can play right away. Jermaine Johnson can start right away. Sauce is going to start right away. So I mean, you got 3 starters in the first round. Like, that's phenomenal work by the Jets. The Giants. Getting Thibodeau, I think you can insert Thibodeau right away. They got Evan Neal too,
also a franchise tackle. Yeah,
I think that's insane by the Giants too.
It's looking like Malik Willis for them tomorrow too.
And there's no real pressure to start right away because you can roll Daniel Jones. Kyle Hamilton was kind of a steal at 14 to the Ravens. I think he's going to be nuts.
I like him too. I think there was just a lot of drafted best player available.
A lot of the teams in the top 9 kind of drafted the best player available, and to kind of fill that gap. And then after 9, you're thinking, well, who takes a quarterback? Okay, Detroit needs one. New Orleans probably needs one. And then those 2 teams pass up on quarterbacks. You're kind of like, now what? And Pittsburgh was like the only one, right? Like,
Pittsburgh, maybe Washington,
maybe Washington, right? Chargers don't, Titans don't, Chiefs don't, Green Bay, Buffalo, Tennessee, Dallas, Baltimore. After that, it kind of came down to, we might not see Malik Willis, we might not see Sam Howell, we might not see these guys that who probably have, first round grades on some boards. Might not see any of these quarterbacks come off the list.
I thought after the Panthers and the Steelers, I was like, there's just nowhere else really for him to go, in my opinion, unless the Texans.
They love Davis Mills,
but they do love Davis Mills. So, but I mean, overall, I think the Jets, the Giants, and the Ravens, I think, had the best first round.
Philly.
Yeah, the AJ Brown trade, like that also came out of nowhere. I like it.
They got
I-
AJ Brown. They
and
drafted Jordan Davis.
You're right. So you pair AJ Brown with Devontae Smith. The Eagles are really going to see what they have in Jalen Hurts. Like this is the year to where you gotta win the division. Otherwise, if you're the Eagles, you also have to explore your options after this year too. This is the year to where you really got to put it together. If you're Jalen Hurts, I'm a fan of Jalen Hurts. So I think he gets a lot of flack for not being a natural thrower. You know, same shit you say about every black quarterback in the NFL.
Right.
So
Right.
I root for him, but I think this is the year you really got to put it together.